Hello everyone, let us discuss one of the most important topics of physiology for exams. So that is the volume and osmolarity changes in the body depicted on a diagram called as Darrow-Yannet diagram. So before we go into diagrams, we have to understand one concept, that is osmolarity. The osmolarity is nothing but the concentration of solute in a solution. If there is a glass of water which is containing a pinch of salt, how much amount of salt is there in that total glass of water is nothing but the osmolarity of that solution. So in human body also, the extracellular, that is outside the cells, the fluid, it is determined mainly by the osmolarity is mainly determined by the sodium. So sodium determines the extracellular fluid osmolarity. So why this is important? Because the water is there, the water can be moving freely across the cell membranes to equalize the osmolarity. So we have two compartments, which is intracellular and the extracellular. Intracellular means inside the cell, extracellular is the outside the cell. The intracellular compartment is larger than the extracellular compartment. So when there is let us see in this diagram, this is the cell, the fluid inside is the intracellular and outside is the extracellular. If there is a movement of water from the extracellular compartment, the osmolarity will be increased because the solute concentration will be increased compared to the solvent. So the osmolarity increases. So in order to equalize this osmolarity, the water will be lost from the cell into the extracellular compartment. So there will be cell shrinkage. So conversely, if there is more fluid in the extracellular compartment compared to the intracellular compartment, that there is the osmolarity of the cell is more than the outside, then the water will move from the extracellular to the intracellular, leading to cell swelling. So let us see the graphs one by one. So in the first graph, we have to see first the x-axis is denoted by the volume and the y-axis is by the osmolarity. So in the first diagram, there is isotonic volume loss. Nothing but there is a loss of volume, but it is equal to the osmolarity. So there is no change in the osmolarity in the extracellular fluid. So if there is no change in the osmolarity, there is no movement of the water from any of the compartments. So there will be isotonic volume contraction, like seen in diarrhea and hemorrhage, will not lead to anything in change in the intracellular fluid compartment. There will be shrinkage of the extracellular fluid, but the intracellular fluid will be no change. So first graph denotes that. Coming to the second graph, here what happens is there is hypertonic volume contraction. Nothing but if there is any sweating or fever or diabetes insipidus, what happens is there will be a loss of more fluid, which leads to increase in the concentration in the extracellular compartment. So the osmolarity of the extracellular compartment is more compared to the intracellular fluid compartment. So the water will be lost from the intracellular to the extracellular compartment. So that's why there will be a decrease in the extracellular fluid, but there will be more decrease in the intracellular fluid, because to compensate the extracellular fluid loss, there will be movement from the intracellular fluid, and the osmolarity will be increased because there is more water loss. So coming to the third diagram, here it shows that there is a hypotonic volume contraction. Nothing but there is more solute loss. So this leads to the extracellular fluid compartment will be reduced. Osmolarity is also being reduced, but the intracellular fluid is being increased because the concentration in the intracellular fluid is becoming more compared to the extracellular fluid. That's why there is movement of water from the extracellular to the intracellular fluid, which causes increase in the intracellular fluid compartment, which is seen in adrenal insufficiency. So next, coming to the next graph, here we can see the osmolarity is normal. The y-axis is not being changed. The osmolarity is normal, but it is being increased. So there is isotonic volume expansion. It will be seen if we inject any intravenously, if we give any normal saline, that is 0.9% normal saline, which is equal to the osmolarity of the body. So there will be only expansion of the extracellular fluid. Since there is no change in the osmolarity, the intracellular fluid compartment remains normal. So the next graph is if there is a hypertonic volume expansion. If we inject a hypertonic saline, what happens? The volume will be increased. the osmolarity also will be increased. Because of this, the intracellular, as the osmolarity is increased, the water will be moving from intracellular to the extracellular compartment, leading to expansion of the extracellular fluid but also decrease in the intracellular fluid, leading to cell shrinkage. Next is hypotonic volume expansion. If we drink excess of water which is containing a less amount of electrolytes, it causes osmolarity to reduce, but the expansion of ECF is there. Since the osmolarity of extracellular fluid is reduced, there will be movement of water from extracellular to the intracellular fluid. So this leads to intracellular fluid compartment expansion, extracellular fluid compartment expansion, and also cell swelling. So in gist, if there is isotonic volume loss, there will be no change in the osmolarity of the ECF, but the volume of the ECF will be reduced. So since there is no change in osmolarity, the ICF will be normal. In hypertonic, if there is a loss of more amount of solvent than the solutes, then the ECF will be reduced, osmolarity will be increased. Since the osmolarity of the ECF is increased, the water will be moving from the ICF into the ECF. If there is more solute loss, hypotonic volume contraction, this causes decrease in the osmolarity. If the osmolarity outside the cells is reduced, what happens? The water will be moving from extracellular to the intracellular fluid, leading to cell swelling. Next, coming to the isotonic volume expansion, the osmolarity will be normal, equal, so it causes only ECF expansion, ICF will be unchanged. Hypertonic volume expansion, if we give hypertonic saline, the osmolarity will be increased. So this causes the cell shrinkage because the water will be moving outside from the ICF, ECF will be increased. If we are giving hypotonic saline, hypotonic like water or like anything solution which is containing less amount of solutes, this causes osmolarity to reduce, and this causes ICF volume expansion. Because the osmolarity is reduced, the water will moving from ECF to ICF, the ECF is increased, ICF is increased, osmolarity is reduced. So these are the important points in this